Yo, what's going on? Deltanian here, and today's gonna be a little different because I'm just gonna be talking about what I think will be potentially good. I have no idea how good this will be until the cards come out, obviously. But today we're gonna be taking a look at specifically Vaporeon, which I think is probably the most interesting Pokemon of the set. Obviously, Mew is probably gonna be the best, or maybe Celebi. We don't have any information on Celebi, but I think Vaporeon is definitely one of the most interesting Pokemon to come out of the set so far. It looks to be a pretty strong card, but yeah, let's take a look at our first deck that I cooked up here. Right there. We have 2 Vaporeons, 2 Eevees, 2 Professor Research, 2 Pokeball, 2 Misty, Blastoise line, and 1 Articuno. Now the objective of this team, we also have 2 Leaves, forgot to mention that, and the next speed. So you kind of wanna tank for Blastoise with your Articuno if you get lucky to draw it immediately. But honestly, Vaporeon's a decent tank right away. And you just stack up energy onto whoever's in the front, whether it's Vaporeon or Articuno, and then all of them have a 2 retreat cost, whether it's Articuno or Vaporeon. So you stay in there, maybe you get a couple hits off with Ice Wing or Blizzard, and then you have 5 energy in total. You use a Leaf, you retreat into Blastoise, which you hopefully have, and you cook. All you gotta do is use Leaf, switch into Blastoise, smack everything in the game for 160 damage. Very, very strong, I think. Could be pretty insane, honestly. Misty's in there to potentially win you the game right away if you get like 9 energy. Just move it around however you like. We have 2 Eevees and 2 Vaporeons here. I think Vaporeon actually as an attacker is not even bad itself because it gets to sap the energy off of Pokemon that are low HP. With the 120 HP and 60 attack, not bad honestly, so yeah. We have an X speed in case maybe we use a Professor Research or a Misty and we just need to be able to move and relocate our energy. We can do that. Like, let's say Vaporeon's stuck in the active slot, but we have 4 energy across the board. We have 3 energy across the board. No, we would need 4, yeah. Vaporeon has 3, Articuno has 1. You need to be able to use the X speed to use Blizzard, so I think that's kind of how the best way to explain it. Where Articuno's in the front, it did 80 damage, it took 110 from Pikachu. Now you need to switch into Vaporeon or something to tank for a turn, and then you use Leaf again, you retreat, and hopefully by then you have your Blastoise. And then you transfer all the energy to Blastoise, and you finish off the rest of the Pika deck list. You do also have Surf for 2 energy on Blastoise, which could come in handy, you know. Cheap attack is always good. But that's enough of that first team there. Let's go to the next team that we have here, which is... 1 second. Let's put it up to the forefront. Boom. This is an Articuno Starmie team. Typical Articuno Starmie team. Except, obviously, we're using Vaporeon. And there's a couple of new cards in here. We have Leaf, which you may be saying, you have Starmie, why are you using Leaf? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. Starmie has a 0 retreat cost, so you actually don't need X-Speed in this deck, I feel. Obviously, it's going to feel a bit bad when you pull Professor Research, and then you need to use it to get your Leaf, and then you get Leaf, but Articuno's trapped in the front. But hopefully that doesn't happen too often, honestly. And basically, you want to have Starmie be up in the front, do its damage, switch to the other Starmie, move all your energy to the new Starmie, while you're building up an Articuno. And we have something that's pretty interesting here. We have Blue, which I think Blue is very good for Pokemon like Starmie. A lot of Pokemon can hit that 120 threshold, not usually 130. So what's going to happen? A lot of Pokemon are going to be able to hit 120, they potentially have Geo. Blue just says, no matter what you're doing 120 damage. You're not going to be able to one-shot me. Now, there's not that many Pokemon that hit for 140. There's Raichu, which will one-shot Starmie anyways. So it's mainly just for the Pokemon that hit for 120, like Tauros that's coming out. Machamp hits for 120. There's probably more, but those are the two that come to my head. So Blue is just gonna block them off. They can't do that. We got a single Sabrina here just because we have the flexibility of the slot. The two leaves, if you want to risk it more, you could run X-Speed. I mean, X-Speed is an item, so you can use it always. You're not restricted by the trainer limitation. So it could be good, but I just thought the two Pokemon that you have, being Vaporeon and Articuno, both have a 2 retreat cost. Leaf is a 2 retreat cost Pokemon trainer. Maybe you even drop 1 Leaf for 1 X-Speed. I definitely think you could do that. I have done that in a different deck, but yeah. This is my just Starmie Articuno deck. Obviously, Vaporeon. I think it's just a good Pokemon to add to this deck list. Now, another thing you could do with these deck lists is you could drop an Eevee for like a second Sabrina or a second Blue to make your deck more consistent, or like drop an Eevee for X-Speed. I see Arcanine decks do this a lot where they run one of the basic, which would be Eevee in this case, or Growlithe in Arcanine's case, and you just run one with both of the evolutions, so it's more likely you get the evolution, but your main focus is on, you only need one of them. Which is true with Vaporeon. You don't need 2 Vaporeons. I mean, it is actually solid as an attacker, I think. Just the 120 HP is pretty good, especially when you get to manipulate the energy the way you do. So, if your opponent happens to take out 2 Vaporeons, you're not going to be too upset about it. Or if they take out a Starmie and 1 Vaporeon, not bad. Or an Eevee even. So that's why I have 2 Eevees in this deck list. But enough about that deck list. We're moving kind of faster than I thought, but that's fine. The next deck list we got here is Lapras. Now, I think Lapras definitely gets very, very helped out with the inclusion of Vaporeon. Because you could just put Lapras out in the front, put 1 energy onto it, start building up your Articuno in the back, slap 2 energy onto it, you use the Leaf, you switch into Articuno, you do your 40 damage attack. And then next turn you can either put the energy onto the Articuno and hit Blizzards, or you could leave, switch into Lapras, move your energy around, then Lapras has 4 energy all of a sudden, and you're hitting Hydro Pumps for 90. You use another leaf, you switch back into Articuno because your Lapras got low. You have a lot of 1 cost Pokemon. Both Laprases are 1 prize point. Both Eevee / Vaporeons are 1 prize point. You got the flexibility of running 2 Sabrinas. All your Pokemon have 2 retreat costs, so we have 2 leaves in there. We also have 2 X-Speeds because we don't really need potions. We have all the trainers we kind of need. We don't really need Blue for this. Not many Pokemon are hitting for like 140 or 100, honestly. Maybe you could run 1 Blue in this deck. Drop an Eevee for a Blue to stop something like Starmie plus Giovanni or something. But not too many Pokemon are hitting that 120 mark. Machamp is versus Vaporeon, but you're not really putting Vaporeon in the front. And it's kind of hard to get a 100 hit. Obviously, Pikachu will do it, but Pikachu is going to give you a hard time no matter what water deck you're running, right? Unless you run something like a Tauros or something in there. So yeah, that's enough of our 3rd deck. Let's look at our 4th and final deck. Obviously, you knew it was coming. Obviously, people are speculating a new Gyarados is coming, so take this deck list with a grain of salt. But this is definitely the weirdest deck I made, but I also like it in a way. Obviously I like it because I cheated. I put 22 cards in here. Ignore the Lapras, okay? It's late for where I'm at, so Lapras is not in this deck, okay? You have 2 Vaporeons, 1 Eevee, 1 Articuno, 2 Professor Research, 2 Pokeball, 2 Misty, 2 Articuno, 2 Magikarp, 2 Gyarados, 2 Sabrina, 1 X-Speed, and 1 Leaf. There's no Lapras here, okay? I cheated. Don't look at the Lapras too hard. It's not in this deck list. Basically, you have Articuno, either which way. in the front. You have it dealing its damage, you know. You're building up your Vaporeon and your Gyarados in the back. You're flipping your Misties, you're seeing what you get. You're potentially paralyzing your opponent. You're stalling. And then all of a sudden Gyarados is online. 4 energy, reduces the energy. Unless your Pokemon, well, unless your opponent has multiple Gardevoirs, they're not going to be able to consistently blast off Psyshock. You instantly shut down Charizard because you're doing super effective damage, so you're doing 120. That's a 2-hit KO, even if they use double potion. And you're taking away an energy. Charizard, aside from Moltres, doesn't have any energy ramp, so if you're constantly taking the energy away from Moltres and Charizard, they're going to be in dire straits, honestly. And we have an X-Speed and a Leaf because things like Magikarp and regular Articuno and regular Eevee are all 1 retreat cost, but Leaf can come in handy because Vaporeon and Articuno are 2 retreat cost. Most likely you're not going to be retreating Gyarados, but honestly, after you use a Leaf, you're going to be able to keep 2 of your energy, which the whole reason, I didn't even mention this throughout the whole video, but the whole reason you're running Leaf in these decks, why I had Leaf in almost every, well, why I had Leaf in every single deck that we had today, is because you want to keep all the energy that you have stored up, and you want to keep them in play. You want to keep all your energy in play because of the way you can manipulate it with this Vaporeon. At least that's what I'm thinking, personally. I think you want to hold on to your energy as much as possible. Maybe even in this deck list, you could potentially drop a Magikarp and add one of these Laprases that I cheated onto the deck list, or a second Articuno. I don't know, up to you. But I definitely think it's pretty strong, this deck list here. I think Leaf is very good synergy with Water, which Water didn't need after getting Vaporeon and Misty and Leaf. The way you could just hold on to your energy with Water types is just very, very strong. And I don't know why it is the way it is. If we're getting a new Gyarados, this could be very, very scary. Probably not a Gyarados EX, so I guess that's something to think about. But I think the Pokemon website just confirmed that there's 5 EXs and we only know 4. I think we only know Celebi, Pidgeot, Mew, Celebi, Pidgeot, and Aerodactyl. That's the only 4 that we know of, I think. So there's one more that we haven't seen. People are speculating it's electric because in the screenshot we have of the Pidgeot EX deck, there's a little outline of yellow. That could just be because we have a new Pikachu and presumably a new Raichu, but they don't really typically do decks based on regular Pokemon, so maybe we have a new electric type supporter card and that's why, same reason we have a blue kind of event. But the new EX that we don't know could be electric. Keep that in your mind. So yeah, these are my 4 decks. If any of them end up being good, I told you so. And if they're bad, don't critique me too hard because Vaporeon's not even out. I think it's very strong. I could be off the mark. I think blue could be very strong for a lot of these Pokemon that are in breakpoints where they're going to get KO'd pretty often. I think something like Blastoise is not in that threshold where it's going to get KO'd often. I also don't think Articuno's there, but something like Starmie is, so it's worth running blue in this deck. But yeah, that's going to be it for me yapping here. You've seen all 4 of my teams. I cheated and put 2 Laprases on this team. What are you going to do about it? If you made it to the end, consider subscribing. And with that being said, this is Delta Neon out. Peace.